Without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to our host for this evening, Valerie Oti Nellis.
Good evening, everyone. I am Valerie O.T. Nellis. As Jim has just said, I'm the Director of Learning and Leadership Development for Neighbor to Neighbor. And I just want to welcome you to the Neighborhood Passions Affinity Network this evening. The purpose of the network is to bring together neighbors, community partners, and other stakeholders from across the metropolitan area around eight key areas, I should say, eight key passions. And so some of you have heard these, but I'll repeat them for the others: crime prevention and reduction, beautification and the environment, neighborhood planning and development, making government work for our neighbors, neighborhood preservation, community and diversity. Is that a switch, Jim? I thought we had another name for that, but community and diversity, and caring for our neighbors, effective neighborhood organizing. So tonight we'll be coming from the passion, caring for our neighbors, and our topic is repairing homes, helping our neighbors remain neighbors. So we'll be Jim's going to send something in the chat for us, the introduction to the chat. So before we get into the topic, let's find out who's in the room. So I'm going to ask each of you to tell what neighborhood you're from, tell your name, and then when you're done with your name and neighborhood, pass it off to some other person in the chat. And I will start. I'm Valerie O.T. Nellis. I live in the Clarksville Highway neighborhood, and I'm going to pass it off to Anita.
Can you hear me? I've
Yes.
unmuted myself. Hi, I'm Anita Armstrong, president of Greenwood Neighborhood Association, and that's in East Nashville. Um, Most people probably know where the pharmacy is, a Mas Taco, so I'm in that area. And I always tell people that the pharmacy used to be my granddaughter's daycare. So that lets you know how East Nashville has changed quite a bit. That's who I am. So I'm going to pass it off to Miss Trish.
Hey everybody, I'm Trish France. I am a member of the Caldwell Abbey Hall Neighborhood Association, the Zoo neighborhood. We're over here right next to the zoo. I am also the Director of Development and Fundraising for Neighbor to Neighbor. And I will pass it on to Francis.
How do you do? My name is Frank Earhart. Uh, I've not really done a lot with Neighbor to Neighbor. I just became involved. We do a lot of volunteer work, but mostly with the vets group, senior ride in Nashville, different things. We volunteer at the symphony. Uh, we try to stay active and volunteer. I enjoy building things and repairing things. So when I saw this topic pop up, it's something I've done with the vets. It seemed like a natural extension of what I like to do.
I'm Kaitlin Dastugue, and I am with Rebuilding Together Nashville. I am their executive director, and I am also an East Nashville neighbor. I'm in the Edgefield neighborhood.
Jim Hawk here at Neighbor to Neighbor, and I'm a resident over in the East Nashville neighborhood of historic Edgefield. Been there for 18 years, and I'm glad to be here with Kaitlin tonight.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Well, it's expensive to maintain a home and own a home. Um, and in this current economic condition, some of our neighbors are really struggling to do that. Some of our older neighbors live on fixed incomes, and that is also a complicated matter. But what can you do and your neighbors do to help longtime neighbors remain in their homes? In this session, we're going to talk about that with Kaitlin um, from Rebuilding Together Nashville, about what each of us can do to help our neighbors remain neighbors. Um, I'm happy to find out this evening that Kaitlin is a native from Louisiana. Um, and and as she has said, she is the executive director of Rebuilding Together Nashville. She's also worked for the Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency, MDHA, managing a variety of initiatives aimed at strengthening Nashville's neighborhoods and supporting affordable housing. She is passionate about rebuilding together Nashville's ability to be a community convener around the issues of affordable housing, preservation, and neighborhood revitalization. Without further ado, Kaitlin.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you so much for inviting me to this conversation. It is something internally with our organization we talk about a lot. We are, very proud of the work we're able to do, and we stretch our capacity to do as much as we can. But one of the truths of home repair needs in our community and in this work is that there is much, much greater need than we as an organization can address at any given time. So it's often been a dream that we have spoken about and talked with our community partners about, that would it be great if more neighborhood associations or neighbors in general really took on some of this passion of helping our neighbors make sure their homes are well maintained, that those critical repairs that often many times we as volunteers or neighbors can do, we're looking out for our neighbors just a little bit more, and how many of these major issues down the road that many of our neighbors face can be prevented if some of these smaller issues are addressed. So when Jim and Valerie invited me, I was thrilled, because think this is just a great opportunity to share some of the things we've learned in our work, and hopefully that many of our neighborhood leaders can take and think about ways to address, bring some of these skills and ideas into their neighborhoods. So I have a few slides that I'll share that kind of illustrate who we are and what we do, and some background on us. So let me see if I can get it going. And I go in presentation mode. Let's see. Are y'all able to see?
Yes.
Great. This is one of our neighbors that we helped last year, Miss Mahmood, and she is waving out of her new windows she's receiving from Rebuilding Together 2 years ago. But Miss Mahmood lives out in Madison. For the last few years, we've been working citywide to help our neighbors who, like Valerie said, are on fixed incomes and have whatever challenges going on, that they've got major home repairs that they can't address themselves. We're able to partner with them to make a lot of those repairs possible. And there we go. So Rebuilding Together, we are a nonprofit 501c3 organization here based in Nashville. We've been in Nashville for 25 years. And we have been, let me see, did it go to the next slide?
It did not change to the next slide, Kaitlin.
I know, let me see what happened. I can go through them this way. Does that work for you guys? Can you see it?
There we go.
Okay. And let's see if I can. See if that one works. So our mission is repairing homes, revitalizing communities, rebuilding lives. And our vision is safe homes and communities for everyone. And this is a mission and vision that we share with the Rebuilding Together affiliates across the whole country. So there's 140 affiliates across our country in urban areas, rural, suburban, and we all share a commitment to this mission and vision, but our work looks a little bit differently based on the needs of our specific communities. So again, we're our own independent 501c3 nonprofit here based in Nashville. We have an independent board of directors. We do all of our own fundraising to fund all of our repairs. And we've been in Nashville for 25 years. So for many of those years, we were very much a grassroots organization. We had a working board. We were, really committed to serving as many neighbors as possible. And our work really relied on the commitment of volunteers. And this meant that we'd work all year round to fundraise, to find homeowners who needed home repair help, get the materials and supplies needed. And one year in April, when we were first founded, our name was Christmas in April. And once a year in April, we would go out in the community and do a ton of repairs, and then plan the rest of the year for that April build season. And we operated that way for many, many years. And then when the flood of 2010 happened, that was really a call to our organization to become part of the flood recovery effort. We ended up hiring our first staff, and we were working year round to help in the flood recovery. And after that, we sort of continued to grow our capacity and continue to do year-round work, continue to have a year-round staff, and really built our capacity to tackle those larger and more expensive repairs that often were a barrier for families when they think about, what does it take for me to age in place in my home? What does it take for me to stay, to be able to afford these repairs that would give me the confidence to stay in my home and community as long as I desire? So that was really, 2010 on was a big shift for our organization. And now where we are is we work with about 25 to 30 households a year, and we do pretty extensive repairs with each family we work with. So on average, we're spending about $13,000 per home. We are addressing usually about 2 major systems. It could be a roofing system, an HVAC system, a major remodel and accessibility modifications to a bathroom or kitchen, and then a suite of smaller repairs. And those smaller repairs are either done with contractors as well, or we can bring in volunteer groups to help us knock out some of those things. So as our scopes have deepened, also so has our focus in making sure that our work is connected to some of the larger cycles that are going on in Nashville. When we look at Nashville and we look at our urban neighborhoods, pressures of gentrification, of new development, of rising cost of living have put a lot of new and changing pressures on our long-term neighbors. And recognizing that unaddressed home repair needs may be one of the factors that homeowners face when deciding whether to stay or sell their home. And our goal is that really no homeowner feels pressured to sell their home prematurely due to unaddressed home repairs. So our big goal when we think about our work is we are really, through direct home improvements, we're really working to preserve the existing affordable housing in our community, preventing the unnecessary displacement of long-term residents, empowering our older adult neighbors who wish to age in place with the environment to do so, and helping restore that fabric of some of our historic neighborhoods that are going through a lot of changes. So when we think about how our work fits in the context of a lot of these broader issues in Nashville, these are some of the things that we like to think about. And then diving deeper into our program, our main program we call SHIP, and it stands for Safe and Healthy Home Improvement Program. So through it, we're addressing health and safety hazards, presence in the homes of, we focus on 3 key populations within the homeowner community. So older adults that we define as age 60 and older, veterans, and people living with disabilities who have home repair needs but aren't financially able to make them a reality. So very specifically, we look at the income for the whole family. We want to make sure that homeownership is sustainable for the family in the medium to long term. And we look for a fit between demonstrated need and the type of repairs that we can provide. And I'll talk in a bit and show you a slide of how we decide which repairs are the ones that we provide. But our goal really is to empower our neighbors so that they've got the resources, support, and a sense of security to sustain homeownership in the long run. And I'm going to switch. Let's see if I can do this smoothly. Stop the share and share PDF. Let's see. Are y'all seeing a list of 25 priorities?
Yes.
So one of the first questions we get asked, especially from homeowner clients, is, well, what kind of repairs do y'all do? And what we really try to focus on are, since we have limited resources, what are the improvements that will have the greatest impact on a family's health and safety? And one of the benefits of being part of this national network is that we have national best practices that come from the National Center for Safe and Healthy Housing that have been reviewed and endorsed by HUD and a lot of national health and housing organizations to really focus in on what are those key interventions that we can do at the home level. So these are the 25 priorities that we bring to every single home assessment we do, that we work with the homeowner to identify and help really express what are the barriers, what are we really focused on when we are scoping out a house to do these projects. It also helps inform trade-offs. If we can only fit in our budget one repair and there's two needs, these are the 25 priorities that really help us decide what's most in line with our priorities. So I was going to run through them real quick, because I think it gives a good sense of what to look for and maybe what are things that you can think about whether you and your community can really provide to neighbors. Having safe ingress and egress in the home is really important. And this could look like there's handrails, stairs are sturdy, doors easily open, windows easily open. And these are all very important for fall prevention, but also for fire safety, making sure that there's at least two ways to get in and out of your home. We want to make sure the roof is watertight. Water intrusion often leads to problems with mold and rot. And mold, as we know, can cause a lot of respiratory issues. So making sure that it's a safe indoor air environment for families we're serving. Rainwater, same thing. We want to make sure it's shed and directed away from the structure and not causing any issues at the foundation level. We want to make sure that exterior walls have no gaps, cracks, or holes larger than 1/8 of an inch. And that for a few reasons, helping make sure the house is well insulated, but also making sure, there's not avenues for pests to get into the home. We want to make sure windows and doors can open and close, locked securely, and are well sealed. Home is free of live infestation of pets, and any sources of attraction are removed. This one is an interesting one that I'd never thought about until I joined this world, but the numerals on your home's street address are clearly visible from the street. The reason that's important is for emergency vehicles to find your home in the state of emergency. And it's until you're looking for it, you don't realize how many of our neighbors maybe don't have visible numbers that can be seen from the street. And that's usually a very simple intervention that can be done, with volunteers or with, a volunteer group. Want to make sure that there's a working smoke detector on each floor and your bedrooms to meet code. We also want to make sure there's a working carbon monoxide detector. Want to make sure every home has a working fire extinguisher and someone in the home knows how to use the fire extinguisher. Making sure it's near the kitchen is also very important. Water heaters Space heaters that produce CO exhausted outside. Usually that's a much more intensive intervention, but something that's very important for indoor air quality. We want to make sure kitchens and bathrooms also have an exhaust fan that goes outside. Homeowner has access to a working sink, toilet, bathtub, or shower. Modifications to toilets and tubs can assist those who need help. So that's another aging in place modification we look at. We're often putting in grab bars placed strategically to assist with fall prevention. All steps and stairwells have handrails to assist those for the risk of falls. Main rooms and stairs are free of tripping hazards. And right below it, one of the less obvious tripping hazards is actually interior carpet. Old carpet that can really bunch and especially doesn't have good transitions into other rooms can often be a not obvious tripping hazard that may be a source of falls within the home. So anywhere we can, if we can rip up carpet and replace with smooth flooring, we do on the bigger projects we work on. And that's usually for two reasons, both fall prevention, but also improving indoor air quality, since older carpet tends to attract pollutants and things that you just really don't want to be breathing inside your home. If you can, making sure the clothes dryer vents outside. And then thinking about the home as a homeowner having ability to control interior temperature in a comfortable range. And interventions on that end can go all the way from, replacing a new HVAC system or installing interior air conditioning for the first time, to just some simple sealing around windows and doors to make it a more energy efficient home. And then making sure that main rooms and especially stairs have adequate lighting so that homeowners can move safely around the home. And then making sure interior painting, wall covering is intact and not peeling. And then making sure the home is free of active leaks and serious moisture problems for the same reason as making sure the roof is watertight to prevent that moisture and the risk of mold from developing. So this is a great list that, we use on every home assessment we do to guide our work, but is also publicly available. And, I think about this list when I think about my own home and what sort of repairs to prioritize, what sort of things should we definitely do versus what we would like to do, and thinking about these safe and healthy housing principles in our work. So I will switch back. Let me see. Can y'all see the slideshow now?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. And here's some 8 other principles of healthy housing. And we like this graphic because it kind of distills it down to really the most simple principles. And it's just that we want to make sure our home and our neighbors' homes are clean, dry, safe, ventilated, contaminant-free, maintained, thermally controlled, and pest-free. And if we're thinking about those principles in developing our work scopes and our home repair programs, these are really like a great guide to use in thinking what does that mean to make sure a home is healthy. I like this list too because it's common hazards that are often overlooked, and I think they're also great things that you as a volunteer can do. So drainage and gutters and downspouts. When there isn't a great system in place, or maybe it's a broken gutter or clogged gutters, you often have water, the risk of water pooling at the foundation. And that could really cause some serious issues for homeowners later down the road, and really cost prohibitive repairs that are needed. But making sure that gutters and downspouts can be well drained, cleaning out your neighbor's gutters, especially this time of year, is a great service to be able to do. But really a simple preventative maintenance that can really prevent some serious issues from developing down the road. Looking for gaps, cracks, and holes in the foundation and siding and filling those is also a great project. Again, the wall-to-wall carpeting, getting that taken out can really improve indoor air quality in the house. Oftentimes, especially in older homes, you'll still see like carpeting in kitchens and bathrooms, which is particularly a health risk because of the moisture that can be captured in the carpet. And then making sure kitchens and bathrooms, especially, which tend to capture a lot of moisture, are well ventilated. And then this one too is something that is easily done by volunteers, but just pruning away ivies and bushes that are growing on or against the foundation or siding of a house can help prevent some of those moisture problems. And we also had a trainer in our national office used to say, any ivy or plants that are growing near the house is really just a highway for pest. So thinking of them as a highway for pest of getting in your home. So we were putting together a list of what are some simple and socially distanced repairs that we could still do for our neighbors as volunteers. And this was like a first kind of crack at a list of things we may still be able to do during this COVID era. So installing those downspout splash blocks or extenders, cleaning out gutters and downspouts, again, removing some of that ivy from foundations and siding, removing small trees and bushes that can be encroaching on a home, pruning tree limbs that could be overhanging a home and causing some of those clogged gutter issues, filling in holes in yards to prevent those tripping hazards that they can cause, removing debris in the yard that might be both tripping hazards but giving harborage to pests, ensuring house numbers are visible, insulating windows and doors, and then making sure those smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors are distributed, installed, and working properly. Were some of those kind of quick and easy ones that our team came up with. And thinking about the impact of both our work and owner occupied home repair work in general, it really has so many more impacts than just really the obvious physical ones. Our national network did a big impact study across our network and looking at our work as we standardize our repairs across the network. And there were areas of mental health that they found improvement through the work we do for homeowners we serve. 3 out of 5 neighbors reported feeling happier when they had those home repairs done. 90% felt less stressed about home repairs and maintenance than before they were working with Rebuilding Together. I love this one. 9 in 10 neighbors who received repairs plan to age in place and plan to stay in their homes as long as possible. The reason why that is important, and we see that as an important facet of our work, is many times there are health benefits for older adult homeowners to stay in your home as long as possible before having to go to seek another living situation prematurely. Financially, it's usually a better scenario, but also in terms of staying connected to social networks is very important. Our work prevents falls, which is, a big focus on how we decide what we do. And then also our work increases upward mobility. So neighbors who are receiving repairs reported an increased ability to pay for daily necessities. So as Valerie was mentioning, with the cost of living rising and many homeowners are on fixed incomes, being able to stretch those dollars that don't have to be spent on some of these expensive repairs to other daily necessities is really important for many of our neighbors. And more than 3/4 of neighbors who we work with plan to pass on their home to families and friends, which is really great in terms of a wealth building opportunity for entire families. For most families in America, your home is your biggest source of wealth and equity, and keeping that wealth within families, as long as they choose to do so, is really a great benefit of our work. And our work improves physical health. So many homeowners reported that their health improved after repairs were completed, and improved hygiene from repairs that have been able to do in bathrooms. So yeah, that was kind of the most of what I wanted to share with you guys tonight.
Thank you, Kaitlin. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions from our audience here? Kaitlin, did you work with Ruby Baker? You know, she was doing some things in her neighborhood.
Yeah.
With her to, with her folks who aging in place folks in her neighborhood.
Yeah, so we worked in these last couple slides. I'll flip to them. We're currently working in the community of Greater Bordeaux. So that is our focus neighborhood for the next few years. And Ruby's community of Bordeaux Hills is right there in that southwest corner. Mm-hmm. And when we started working with Ruby, she had already done this amazing assessment of her neighborhood, where she had gone door to door and already had like a really good needs assessment of who in her neighborhood needed home repairs. And she was working on getting some of the funding and matching volunteers to do that work. So we've been able to partner with her and the knowledge she has of the needs in her neighborhood. And I'm currently actively working in Bordeaux Hills to serve some of those homeowners. But it's really impressive, the work.
Yeah, very good. Anyone else?
I think it's a great program. I think that's what happens a lot of times too, as well as seniors. They're not able to keep the repairs up or afford the repairs. So for somebody to be able to come in and help and bring in volunteers, I think that's just awesome. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mm-hmm. If we run across a project that's bigger in scope than we can help, or I can help, can we contact you to see if it might be something that you might help with?
Yeah, so we often work with volunteer groups and individual volunteers to come out and do projects. Most of our projects are multi-phased. So we may have a demo phase in the beginning that we could use a team of volunteers, or a like final touches phase that we will bring in volunteers for to do some of the punch out list and handyman sort of things. Before the pandemic, we were doing it a lot more. Now we're keeping our volunteer days limited to under 10 individuals for the time being. But how we do that is we have an email list of volunteer opportunities, and I can throw it in the chat too. So if you wanted to get on that email list, we blast out that list anytime that we're looking for volunteers to help on projects. So it's a great list to start getting on. And then as we get into the spring, we definitely love to explore kind of doing a more formal volunteer day with some of your groups. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be really great.
Kaitlin, we're in a very litigious society, as we know by the elections here. Question for you is, when people go out and do the work, if neighbors go out and do work on a home and they're not charging, and I know you're not a lawyer, but what's the liability for individuals and for like
Yeah.
neighborhood organizations if they're helping neighbors, not charging anything, and something terrible happens?
Yeah, I think that is one of the biggest barriers to doing this work. So we have a general liability policy that covers our work working with homeowners and covers any volunteers that are working through us on projects. But again, we don't have the capacity to do all the work and cover all the need. So it is something, and I know when the city was thinking about doing a like home repair sort of program to help remediate codes violations, that was one of the things that kind of one of the barriers and tricky things that they were kind of working through. Well, what's our liability here? How can we help cover? So I don't wonder if there's an umbrella organization, whether it's like Metro government, or through Hands on Nashville, maybe, that may have an umbrella policy that covers volunteers to be working under to do some of this work that may help give some coverage. But it's definitely something to be, yeah, aware of.
Do you all train people how to do the various I don't know, construction activities? I don't want to say construction. They may all not be construction, but is it on the job training, or do you kind of help people learn a little something before they get out on the job site?
Most of it happens on the job. So we do our staff, or we have house captains, which are skilled volunteer leaders leading projects. And most of it's happening while projects are going on. We typically don't do too many heavy construction or skilled projects with volunteers,
Mm-hmm.
because just from that list, that I showed, there's actually so many great things that you can do with unskilled volunteers, whether it's landscaping and drainage and really making sure that water is directed away from the house, to putting numbers on houses, installing mailboxes, and some of those things. So we try to stay away from the, really construction intensive projects, and we rely on licensed and insured contractors to come in and do some of that more skilled work.
Mm-hmm.
But
Good.
yeah, training is usually happening. If we are doing something a little bit more technical, it's usually happening as it's on site.
Right, right. Very good. Jim, could you put Caitlin's email address, not her email address, but the website address for the organization in the chat box for us?
I can.
Caitlin, could you recite that for us, please, so he can put it in there? Mm-hmm.
And here, I'll also throw our volunteer sign up form on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good.
Let's see. Stop share.
Ruby did do a very impressive assessment of all of her neighborhood folks. So she said they did things like lowering the peephole, which I thought was an interesting thing to do, an easy thing to do for folks who had moved, were in wheelchairs or whatever, couldn't, people like my mother, 5 foot and can't, see into the peephole, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And she also identified like exterior lighting as
Yeah.
something that made her neighbors feel more comfortable. So we've gone through and installed some lighting.
Right. Handrails on front porches and things like that. So yeah, it was very interesting, all the work that she did out there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us this evening. If there are no more questions, we really appreciate all of you all joining us this evening. We'll be back again next week with another session on effective neighborhood organizing, and I'll be your speaker.
And I'll be the host.
Yay! All right, you got everybody have a great rest of the week and weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all. Stay safe.
Everybody.
Okay.